everyone, welcome to Watch It Paint It. In this video we are back. We're going to be painting another miniature from Batman Gotham City Chronicles, and this time it is Batwoman. I didn't know there was a Batwoman. This is an educational channel. Anyway, as I mentioned, this is from Batman Gotham City Chronicles. That was kickstarted by Monolith Games forever ago now, but if you did miss out, it was Kickstarter exclusive. And it's coming back. Season 2 is on June the 4th on Kickstarter, and you'll be able to pick up all of Season 1 if you missed out and you are now pretty interested and hyped on that. So let's have a quick look at the artwork for Batwoman. It's another fairly simple one. I say these are simple. Black's quite difficult, but this is the third sort of black-based miniature in a row, and this one's got a bit of red. For this video, I'm going to be trying out this The Ring sort of miniature holder, which is currently on Kickstarter, and this is a prototype 3D printed version that I've got. I'm just showing you the miniature here that I've used. Army Painter's uniform grey colour primer, and then I've use some putty, poster putty, to stick that to this ring holder. So you wear it as a ring, it's on my middle finger, and then you've got this sort of 360-degree spin that's available, and you can just move the miniature around in your hand. So let's try this out, compare it to sort of my hobby holder at some point. Just thought I'd take it for a test spin while it's on Kickstarter so you guys can see it. We're going to be using Redgrass Games. Oh, there's a mouthful of manufacturers here, isn't there? Anyway, Redgrass Games paintbrushes. They've got a 00 and a big one, a 2, and this is the 00. So we're going to be painting her face white, just matte white, Army Painter's matte white. She looked quite pale in the artwork. That's what I was just double checking there. Missed her forehead, so make sure you don't miss her forehead. Then I'm going to use a brightish red, Abomination Gore. That's the zombie side set, but Army Painter obviously have the normal range, and you want a brightish red. And this is going to be, it's practically the only other colour on her. She's sort of black and she's red, and her face is white, and that is it. So I did prime it in that colour prime, the uniform grey one, and that's because I was going to try and darken down this grey. Now, in fact, I did use some dark tone, that black wash, and a couple of layers to darken that down. It didn't look good at all. So I've cut all that footage from the video, washed off the wash while it was still wet. I could see it wasn't gonna work for us, and I'm gonna paint it black. So you'd have been probably, if you want to copy this technique, you'd have been better off priming it just in matte black by the Army Painter or your chosen paint range. So the reason I was painting it, I'm going to do a couple of dark tones. I was just trying to mix this up and try and experiment different ways of basically painting these three. I've done Nightwing and I've done Batman, and this is Batwoman. I'm trying to find different ways of painting those cloaks, painting the black and highlighting it up nicely. And I'm trying to give you guys plenty of options, because obviously everyone, it's subjective. Painting is subjective, and we've all got different opinions and feelings towards things, and I'm just trying to find different ways of painting up. So bear in mind, if you don't like this way, do check out Batman and Nightwing and basically assess which one you like, or like me, and just have your models slightly different, and it makes the game a little bit more interesting. So I've been carrying on in the background with this Abomination Gore. That's both her gloves. She's got a big bat sign on her chest, her boots, and then her hair as well. All this bright red, as I mentioned, it's like 3 colours. That's all we're going to need for this miniature. And then I'm going to whiz out that Redgrass Games 2-size brush, and that's going to be for the inside of her cape. It looks, as far as I can tell in the artwork, the bottom's red and the top's black. You just saw one of the features of the ring miniature holder. You can sort of flick 180 degrees the miniature and get it upside down. One of the problems I've found with that, though, is it actually puts it sort of at a weird angle for me to reach. So although that's a really cool feature, and this is a nifty looking miniature holder, I'm struggling at the distance it put this miniature from me, especially when it was upside down. So as I mentioned, I did try some dark tone now to darken down this uniform grey. It just wasn't working for me. By all means, try that if you'd like. I just felt like it looked like it was grey with lots of wash on it. So now I'm going back and I'm going to paint on some matte black. Don't worry, I am going to try and paint this one differently anyway. Nevertheless, we're going to highlight it using just varnish, so we'll see how that looks later on. But yeah, I'm still using the larger brush, that 2-size brush, because this is quite easy to get to, and it's got a nice point on the end, so I'm not getting any on that red. Oh, the red needs to do with belt as well. Don't forget that bit, although I think it's fairly obvious where you need to paint these colours. The artwork does lend itself nicely to being quite accurate to it. and then I'm just going to take my time and paint. I'm not even going to switch from that big brush until maybe her ears and her mask as well, just because that's a bit too close to the red that I've painted on previously. But pretty accurate with this big brush. I'm quite impressed with these Red Grass Games paintbrushes. I will try and do a review in the future, but yeah, no real complaints other than they're pretty pricey, and I've not taken the best care of them, so I think that's my fault. They're showing a bit of war damage from my misuse, basically. But yeah, as I said, I'm basically just going to use varnish to highlight this up. So it's a different technique. That Batman I painted in Necromancer grey, just got it really dark and then washed it black to give the illusion that I painted it black. Then Nightwing, I think I did fairly similar with some bolder highlights. And then for this one, she just looks, in the artwork, her costume looks quite PVC, quite like the 90s Batman style of movies. That just reminds me of the Catwoman. As I said, I don't actually know Batwoman, don't know what her origin is or how she's really dressed, other than the artwork looks a bit shiny. So I thought, ooh, let's get some gloss varnish involved and see if we can use the natural highlighting of the light reflecting off it. I have switched down to my smaller size brush now, that 00, and that is going to be to do her mask, because I've painted in her eyes white, I've got her face nice and white, and her hair's painted red, so I really don't want to smash a big brush into any of that. So with her white skin, we are going to use a Flesh Wash Army Painters, and that's just slightly sort of reddy, peachy skin tony, and that's going to take that white and just make it look like a really pale skin color, and I think I'm pretty happy with that. Once that dries, red tone, Army Painter's Red Wash, and I'm going to be using that for all of the red bits, so her hair, her cape, her belt, her boots, and her gloves. Really simple. I'm going to try and get some on the Bat logo across her chest, although it sort of doesn't matter because it's kind of flat and I wanted to highlight it up anyway, but hopefully just darkening it down to give a better look to it once I do highlight it later. So this is all with my big brush, because this is quite quick and easy and I don't need to be super accurate. That's how she looks washed, and that's all the washing, just the flesh and the red tone. As I mentioned, I did use black on the grey before, but just cut it out. Not wasting our time with that, but I'll waste your time by mentioning it over and over and over. I'm going to start highlighting up now. I'm going to be using Abomination Gold, which is the base colour, the red that I used from the beginning. And this is super watered down now because I would like this to sort of blend and pool. Well, it's not really pool. It's not watered down so much it goes into the recess. You need to be careful with that. That's a trap I can fall into myself quite often, but hopefully, because it's so watered down, even if it does that, it's only going to slightly lighten up the dark red tone that we used in the recesses. So I'm going to be highlighting all the raised parts. So I did all the tops of her pouches around her belt, on her gloves. I'm doing sort of her knuckles, the backs of her palm, just sort of the raised bit, the top bit, down her forearms, and then she's got these wings, blades, spikes off of her gloves on both sides. And I'm going to just replicate that on her right hand, just copying what I did in the left. And then the boots are going to be in a similar way. I'm going to highlight up her sort of toe caps. She's got a fold along the top of her boots, bring that nice bright red, get the heel that's poking up, and then she's got a bunch of sort of folds and lines across her boots, wrinkles and stuff, her ankles showing, just all the raised bits, just highlight those up and give it a nice realistic look to them, as though the light's catching those bits, and the folds are in shadow, a little bit darker and such. And then with the cape, it's going to be a little bit more tricky than the rest. The rest sort of is really obvious where to highlight. The cape's kind of flat in places, so I'm going to be edge highlighting quite generously wide lines down all of the folds in the cape. I'm just going to leave all the recesses again. The only real difference is it's quite flat, so you've just got to sort of, I was using the light to work out which bits were flat and which bits were the creases down the edges, but I'll edge highlight them in a brighter colour later. But it's really a case of keeping your paint nicely watered down here so it blends nicely anyway, and then just taking your time and working out which bits to shine up, highlight up, and which bits not to. The back of the cape, the bits that are sticking through there, and then, as I mentioned, that edge highlighting. But I won't waste too much time because it's so thin. I won't do so much with this red. We'll wait to the next layer of highlighting, which I'm going to brighten up anyway. And then with her hair, I'm just picking out the strands that are sticking out the most and highlighting those back to that base color. She's got a few dangling down the back of her cape, and I'll be sure to brighten those up nicely. And just another feature of this ring holder is that you're able to flick that around, and that gives you full rotation on the other axes, so it's no longer just flips 180 degrees. I've got full rotation. It gives you a lot more accurate control for the positioning, but again, once I turn it upside down, there's no way I could control it. Abomination Gore is now going to get mixed with Prison Jumpsuit about 50-50, so that's a really bright orange. So I've got quite a bright red, quite a bright orange now, mixing those together again, and again, sorry, having lots of water in, probably about 50% water at once that mixture's mixed, and just very carefully going around basically the same places, building up the layers now. So the first layer of the red's going to brighten it up slightly, then this layer on top is going to brighten those bits up even more. But I mean, I'm trying to keep it the line sort of thinner, not as wide, and more towards the most raised parts of all the same areas as I did before. Just maybe not the backs of her palms this time. I would just be doing her knuckles, maybe down her fingers, and just the spikes, not her forearms this time. So just really focusing the light to the most raised bits, you know, your knuckles, the edge of your forearm, those spikes on the fins on your gloves. What are they called? Do they have a name? Because quite a few of the characters have them, don't they? And then on her boot, she had that fold around the top and her ankle, maybe a heel as well. And then once those bits are done, you're going to be left with her hair and her cape. So for her hair, it's just very similar to before. Find the most raised bits, this time the very edges of her hair, whichever bits you can get. Maybe a splash along the top edge of the Batman symbol across her chest, just to make the lights hitting that. It is 3D and it does stick out of her chest, so there is lines to do an edge highlight. If you're super careful, steady hands, and don't have a camera in the way, then you'll definitely be able to do that. I'd maybe not water the paint down at all if you were going for an edge highlight along the Batman logo, because it's just, even if it's slightly runny, it could just run into the recess all that bit too easily, so you might want to keep it quite dry for there. Then for the edge highlighting of a cape, it is just that. I'm almost dry brushing this on at this point and just really catching the points of the folds, and then I'm also going to go around I want the red to sort of show through on the underside all the way around the cape, so I just want to give her this edge highlight of this bright orangey red colour around the whole of her cape, just so whichever angle you look at it, you can see it's black with a red underline. That's it, guys, completely finished it, so all the colour anyway, so I ran outside and gave this a gloss varnish coat by the Army Painter, and then after that I am going to use their paint on matte varnish, and that's to remove the shine from her hair and her gloves and the underside of her cape and her boots, as well as the pavement under her legs as well, so I won't want that to be as shiny once we are finished. So as I mentioned going through the video, I basically avoided having to do any highlighting of the black on her because I used this gloss varnish, and it uses natural light to sort of highlight it. So as you look at it, all the raised parts just glisten a little bit more. It's a different technique. I've not tried it myself before, and I thought, what is the point in showing you guys how to paint black basically 3 times in a row? So I've tried 3 different things with Batman, Nightwing, and now Batwoman. So basically pick which one you like most, or do what I did and paint different miniatures in different ways, try and match the artwork a little bit more accurately. I think she looks shiny in the artwork, and she looks shiny here. 50 minutes to paint this miniature, pretty happy with that. Another one down, and there's so many, it's worth me. It was certainly worth me messing around and trying out different techniques so you guys can pick and choose what you personally prefer. It is subjective, we all like different things. Next week I will be painting some Robin, so there'll be more than black on a miniature, so do hit subscribe if you're interested in seeing some more videos such as Robin next week. And just one final reminder, Batman Gotham City Chronicles was Kickstarter exclusive, but Season 2 is coming to Kickstarter June the 4th. You'll be able to pick up all of Season 1 as well if you're interested. Thank you all ever so much for watching.